And I'm not here by myself, even though it says Robert Smith, City Planning Department. I've got a partner in crime on this one. Robert Smith, City Planning Director. We are here this evening, myself, in partnership with the City of Montgomery, in partnership with the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce, and we've got the Executive Director, CEO, Ms. Anna Buckaloo, who's partnered with us in the preparation of two very important master plans that are being presented this evening. The first one that's on your agenda for item number 12 is the Southern Boulevard Action Plan. What I had given to you all is an annual report that has been prepared with the assistance of our comprehensive plan consulting firm, Planning Next, who actually helped us with the Envision Montgomery 2040 comprehensive plan that you all approved back in 2020, and they are also the consultant of record for the Southern Boulevard Action Plan. But in this particular annual report that you all have that I gave you before the meeting, if you flip to page number 4, and it lists about 10 items that are progress items for this particular year. Well, the items that we're talking about this evening, the Downtown Action Plan and the Southern Boulevard Action Plan, are the first item, and the sixth item are in the actual progress report itself. And as I go to
wait a minute, Robert.
I'm sorry, say again?
We got to get caught up with you because it's not in hours like that.
Page number 3.
I thought you said
4.
You said 4, so
I'm sorry, yeah.
All right,
Page number 3
all right,
of the Envision Montgomery 2040 annual report.
the picture.
Oh, no, not that one, not that one. Let's step back. So it's going to be this document right here that I'm on right now. Let's step back, which is a thin one. It says Envision Montgomery 2040 annual report, December 2022.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Gotcha. So let's step back. So let's go to page number 3, just to kind of rehash that, where it says progress this year. The particular items that were on the agenda here this evening to talk about are particular action items that have been worked on this year or still being worked on this particular year. And just to go back to one item that y'all mentioned just before you closed out the last item, the citywide zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations update, that is an action item that's also under development as well, which that's a 60-year-old document that desperately needs to be, that's in the process of being updated. So we'll be coming soon to y'all with that one at some point in the near future. So, so on page number 3, again, the first item, Downtown Action Plan, and then the sixth item, Southern Boulevard Action Plan, are our progress projects that we're working on and have completed at least these two on the list so far. Now we're going to go to page number 6, the progress item, and you can read through this on your own in your leisure, so you can read about all of the particular projects that we're working on. But the Southern Boulevard Action Plan, page number 6, this plan was initiated and completed in 2022, focusing on revitalizing and enhancing the intersection of I-65 and the Southern Boulevard. This intersection and corridor is a major gateway with the potential to become a vibrant destination through specific strategies and investments. One particular thing that I want to highlight about this particular corridor, I gave you a one-pager that shows traffic counts along the Southern Boulevard. So this particular corridor that we're talking about, this corridor runs, for this particular action plan, runs from the Mobile Highway on the Southern Boulevard, from the West Boulevard at the Mobile Highway intersection to Davenport Drive, which is the entrance to the Gateway Park. traffic counts there in that corridor, which I just thought this was important enough for you all to see, runs between 20,000 vehicles per day to 33,000 vehicles per day. I-65 itself, which is the north-south roadway, generates upwards of 80,000 vehicles per day. So there's a lot of opportunity in this particular corridor, which is why it's a very important gateway and location within the city. And after we complete this particular action plan, assuming that you all give favorable recommendation for approval along with the city council, our next phase is to tackle the rest of the Southern Boulevard corridor from Davenport Drive all the way to Vaughn Road. So we're tackling the whole entire Southern Boulevard corridor, but this is phase number 1 of the Southern Boulevard corridor. So I just wanted to get your attention on the traffic in this particular location. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Anna Buckaloo, who's going to give some brief remarks, and then after that, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Logan Stang with Planning Next, who's not here in person, but he's virtually with us on Zoom, and he's going to do an overview of the Southern Boulevard Action Plan. Anna.
Thanks, Robert. Good to see you all this evening. It's been a pleasure to partner with the city on this work. These two plans that are before you tonight are part of a very intentional effort between the city, the chamber, and the county to ensure that we're being super focused on our economic development work. The 2040 plan is a really good plan. It calls for clear action steps, and so the two plans you're seeing tonight are direct action calls out of 2040. For the chamber, our mission of economic growth and creating a better quality of life for all of Montgomery, it's tied to economic acceleration. And I want you to also know that these two studies are connected to another corridor study that has been completed in partnership with the city and the county on I-65, which includes a redesign and new gateway at Clay and Heron Street. So all of these are designed at being catalyst to intentional growth and development. They reconnect our neighborhoods, they revitalize downtown, which is a tremendous economic engine for Montgomery, and they remediate the blight. The Southern Boulevard study was something that the city council specifically came to the chamber and said, we need to do something about the blight in Montgomery. How do we get focused? How do we take 2040 and execute? And I hear that from a lot of you, and the leadership in our community is it's time to execute. And so what we love about these two plans is these are about action steps. And it's been a pleasure to partner with the city on both of these. Now, I do want you to know every effort at the chamber, from what we're asking Congress for, to how we're aligning tourism focus and development, is tied back to this partnership with the city and these two plans. It's very important, and it makes life better for our residents and future business.
All right, Logan, we're going to turn it over to you. You can go ahead.
Awesome. I appreciate that, and thank you all for letting me join you this afternoon. I think both Robert and Anna touched on some really important points with this, which is, we were fortunate enough to lead the effort on the 2040 plan, and there was a lot of really good discussions, ideas, direction for the city. And since then, over these last 2 years, the main focus has been on, we need to get stuff done. We need to get out there, get the specifics. 2040 was looking at citywide, what is our overall vision? Now we were able to dive into these more focused areas, really look at areas of opportunity like downtown, like the Southern Boulevard, and start to figure out, what are some of those specific steps that we can be doing, and how can we really, take advantage of the opportunities we have? How can the city, how can the chamber, other community partners get involved in really helping implement and start to see the physical change across the community? So with the, Robert gave a good intro on the Southern Boulevard, and Anna hit some key points there on this is viewed as a major gateway to Montgomery. It has a lot of regional connections with the Inland Port Project, with the airport. There's a lot of big economic drivers It's also a major corridor that connects to, some of our more established neighborhoods, long-term neighborhoods. So Southern Boulevard really has a lot of opportunity available. And this was really just the first phase of let's start at the gateway, let's start at the entrance and really see how can we promote change, how can we revitalize the area, how can we bring it back to what people remember how it was when it was booming, when it was vibrant. Let's get back to that point and let's really see how we can position it that way. How does this align with some of the other efforts? So what Robert shared with you is our annual report. That's available on the Envision 2040 website, which is still there. It's highlighting all of the projects we have. And as part of that is the more detailed action plan for Southern Boulevard. So that really goes into, here are some important properties. Here's where people could be looking to consolidate land. Here's where we could do some redevelopment, some infill, promote both economic opportunities, promote some housing opportunities, really provide a lot more to just bring that whole area back up and leverage a lot of the other investments that have been made on that corridor. And as Robert had said, this is really just a first phase for us. We're going to be looking at, the whole stretch of Southern Boulevard as it starts to extend around the loop to the east. So we're really excited for you all to take a look at this. Really excited for looking at that next phase because the most fun part of any planning process that we get into is actually seeing the action, seeing things get done, and really getting to be a part of that change. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have, but I think you have a lot of great resources there, and it's a really exciting time for Montgomery. So with that, Robert, maybe I'll kick it back to you. I'm not sure if you want to tee up Scott for the downtown, or if you want to move forward with a vote on that one first.
Yeah, first things first. The Southern Boulevard is the first one. I think that's pretty much all that you have, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Unless you all on the Planning Commission have any questions for us.
Any questions for Logan about the Southern Boulevard Action Plan?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
When it comes down to it, those buildings or structures or something over there that should have been torn down a long time ago. What happens to those? Is the city going to buy those and then tear them down? How do you plan to go about that?
So you're talking about the Logan? He's talking about the vacant, abandoned, dilapidated structures that are pretty much along the Southern Boulevard corridor for this particular plan. Yeah, I think that is the intention. Logan, do you want to touch on that a minute? Then I'll come back.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, because that was one of the big points that we talked about with City Council and with others as well, was that, you have some of these buildings that have been abandoned, they've been falling, the properties aren't being maintained well. Like, what can we do about this? And, one of the things that we looked at and something that we tried to highlight was other examples in the state or other areas of how they deal with this blight and how they deal with this. With these older buildings. And so we shared a number of resources that are being looked at both as part of the zoning code update and as other methods that can handle these buildings. So there's a whole condemnation process. The city of Birmingham actually has a pretty detailed process for dealing with this, where they'll work through, try to get the property owner to maintain it, bring it back up, make sure it's not a safety or a health hazard to the community, and it'll get to the point where the city there can actually purchase the property owner or purchase the property itself. They can tear down the buildings and they can start to acquire that and then use that for an economic development opportunity. So they can partner with a developer to do something that's going to help bring back the vibrancy, bring something the community needs. And so that's one of the things that I think city council is really receptive of, is how can they, how can the city and how can other partners like the chamber get involved in this and helping really drive forward the revitalization. So I think that's something that's definitely being looked at, is can we put these policies in place to remove these buildings, bring these sites up, and then let's get them back on the development side, have them actually be contributing to the community.
But at the end of the day, if they aren't capable of being able to be put back on the development side, then they will be carried through a legal process that eventually does lead to condemnation and then eventual demolition. Just like any other property that the city has to take through that process, that will be applied to these particular buildings on this corridor. And that has not been done at this point, but that's the direction that we're headed. I mean, because it's the only way that this corridor can be redeveloped if that process is taken.
My concern, and I might be off track, some of my colleagues might know more than me, is that you have a person that buy these buildings, and they've let them run down, and they've kept them, and then the city come along and buy the building from them, which is rewarding them for bad behavior.
Understand.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Understand. Sometimes that's just a part of the process. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. Understood.
We've seen it time and time again.
Understood.
We have provided the ordinances that Logan mentioned that Birmingham uses. We've got to have some real teeth. We've got to make it a real disincentive to do what these people are doing to neglect their property. And so by the time it gets to the point where the city takes it over, or we talked about forming a public-private entity that can accelerate our ability to move these kind of properties, so it's not all left up to just the government to do this, because their processes have to be slow. But we've got to penalize these landowners for being allowed to do this in our community. It's not okay.
Right.
And those ordinances, they are not on the council agenda yet, but we've given them to members of the council. The legal department is looking at those, putting them in a structure for Montgomery's ordinance structure. But the Birmingham language is pretty clear, and because it's also Alabama statutes, it'll work pretty well in Montgomery, we think.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically, the ordinance information that she's talking about goes along with the approval of the actual plan itself. So in order for us to carry this out, we need approval of the plan to move it forward.
Gotcha.
Anna, when do you think that can be accomplished?
I would think we could get those ordinances through within about 60 days.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We're
That's
going to have to stay on top of it and make sure we get that done. But it's certainly doable because we've already got a model.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
else did the work. There's no point in us reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the members here? Any comments from the audience on this particular Southern Boulevard Action Plan? Any further comments, Robert?
No, sir. No more from me.
Okay. On the number 12, the Southern Boulevard Action Plan, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion has been moved and properly seconded.
Double second.
Yeah, double second. All those in favor? Anybody disapprove?
Mr. Cook, how did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay, it was unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Robert Smith, requesting approval of the Downtown Action Plan.
Here we go.
All right, here we go again. So again, same partnership. I'm not going to go through that again. City of Montgomery, Montgomery Chamber of Commerce, partnering on the update of the downtown Montgomery plan, called the Downtown Action Plan. The action plan was initiated and completed in 2022. It identified in the Envision Montgomery 2040 comprehensive plan. This effort reflects on past investments to define new opportunities for enhancing downtown. While the 2007 plan focused on physical development, this plan provides guidance on offering economic incentives, promoting cultural amenities, and supporting neighborhood needs. The one note to bring forward about the 2007 plan, which is why there are not any zoning changes in this plan, as there were not any zoning changes in the previous one. The one good thing about the 2007 plan was it helped to generate over $100 million in economic investment after it was completed in 2007. That's why you've seen all of the growth and redevelopment of downtown. We took what used to be only single zoning capabilities, and now you're able to actually have a mix of uses in downtown Montgomery. So no changes were made in the update, and with us this afternoon we have, unless Anna has any comments, but before I
belabor, because Scott is the expert, and I will tell you that as you meet Scott Page and his team, we wanted to find someone to prepare this downtown plan that was all about building out a downtown block by block and making something happen. And Scott's team, that's exactly what they've done. They've done it all over the country with a wonderful track record. And so this plan will literally help us activate downtown block by block so that we stay very focused. We don't need a block that looks great and a block that's abandoned. We need to have a plan that's intentional about business development, new hotel development, connecting Whitewater all the way down to what legacy project on the river that you heard about tonight. You've got EJI with major investments in Montgomery, and so connecting EJI to the Whitewater complex and really all the way to the Cypress Park. And then our federal agenda, where we're going and asking for dollars, is all tied to that, extending the Riverwalk west to Maxwell. So we love the fact that this is purposeful and it gets things done, and just have really enjoyed working with the city on this.
And now, without further ado, we're going to have Mr. Scott Page, who is with Interface Studios, which was the primary consultant working on the downtown Montgomery action plan update. Scott, we'll turn it over to you.
Robert, Anna, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to share a few slides just to provide a overview of the work that we did. And just kind of give you a snapshot of what is in the document. This document is online on the Envision 2040 website, and Logan and Planning Next were really helpful in helping to create and help us implement an engagement process that built upon the 2040 work, but really focused on downtown stakeholders and residents so that we could get a great picture of what's really needed in downtown Montgomery. So just as very quick background, I think, and this is one of the things that we have said to a number of people in Montgomery, that downtown Montgomery has a unique, very unique history, and that is something that we were looking to build upon. And as Robert mentioned, since 2007 and the work that you all have done, there's been a lot of investment and there's been a lot of positive change in downtown, but there is more to do. And I think when we did this engagement, we learned and heard loud and clear that there's a need for more housing, more businesses, more activity, to be able to address some of the concerns that folks had about downtown Montgomery. In other words, there was a lot of great work, but there's still more on the to-do list. So when we're looking at downtown Montgomery, and this is what the plan covers, it's the area that's shown in gray. This is representative of the plan from 2007, so it's a similar geography. But we always look at downtowns in context. So that's why this map is a little bit zoomed out. So you're downtown, but we also have to think about how it connects to Alabama State University or Maxwell Air Force Base and Whitewater. So we were always looking at this place within the context of Greater Montgomery. And as I mentioned, the process itself was really focused on engagement, reaching business owners and property owners, those that care deeply about downtown Montgomery, residents. We're all trying to make it better so that we could learn from them about their experiences and what they would like to see, If you have questions about the engagement, it is well summarized in the report, but we had a number of different ways for folks to get involved, and we learned so much information from this process. So I say this just about every time that I've made this presentation around downtown Montgomery, but that great downtowns follow great planning, right? This is intentional. You all have shown the ability to do it because 2007 brought all of that investment. This is the next step in that process. So after all of this work, the plan itself really focuses on 5 key goals. One about safety, one about tourism, one about the experience of being downtown, one about the riverfront specifically, and one about the economy. There are 25 actions embedded within these goals. That's how the entire plan is set up. I am not going to go through all 25. I'm just going to give you a snapshot of a couple of them. But the document is organized very clearly to get at those specific actions that Anna was mentioning that we need to take going forward to see an even better downtown Montgomery. So the first set of actions are related to this goal around safety. That kind of visitor experience. What does it look like when you show up? Are things maintained? Does it feel safe? This is not uncommon responses that we get about downtown Montgomery because we hear them in downtowns across the country, right? The fundamental foundation of a great, successful downtown is that it feels safe, it looks like it's been maintained, and these kinds of improvements, signage, lighting, downtown ambassadors, which help to provide kind of an eyes on the street, a feeling that folks are there at all times of day and the evening, are really important. And so this plan does recognize that we have to address those basics and fundamentals. And one of the ways we need to do that is to build capacity in our downtown. So what I'm talking about here is the capacity to take action. The great downtowns that we have worked in have a number of different organizations, not just the city, that are all working towards the same common vision. So sometimes it's a land bank, which of course you all have, and have been using the land bank effectively in different parts of Montgomery. In other times, it is a CDC or a community development corporation that looks at the development of housing. The downtown business improvement district, or a district that is dedicated to taking care of those basics within downtown. And then in Alabama, you also have the option for a tourism improvement district that Mobile has, which generates money citywide, but of course also benefits downtown. So the reason all of these things are at the table, and we've really pushed this idea of creating a downtown business improvement district for Montgomery, but also a citywide tourism improvement district, is that it helps to generate money to spend on those basic improvements that visitors and residents and businesses have all been asking for. So the long and short of this is that the plan focuses not just on what we should do, right? Which block should look better and how it should look better, but also how do we make it happen? What are the processes and the organizations that we need to really push things forward and to meet the goals of what folks have told us? The second goal is all about tourism. There are a couple big ideas around tourism. One is that we strongly suggested that you should be pursuing a national park status for downtown because of your unique history, and a history that really is unmatched, particularly around civil rights. We think there's certainly opportunities to bring new attractions to downtown. So anytime there's an opportunity for a new attraction, looking at Montgomery or the region, downtown should be first on that list. And certainly the investments by EJI represent that kind of an amenity and that kind of a draw. And then there's things like Union Station and the Curb Market, places that people really value and really, really love within downtown Montgomery, that this plan talks about ways to better leverage and make the use of those really valuable assets. We think that the city needs to tell the full story to a range of audiences about why downtown Montgomery is unique, and that's civil rights, it's aviation, it's music. We think we can do that through public art and a lot of very creative kind of activities. There should be music on the street in downtown Montgomery, given that downtown Montgomery and Montgomery as a whole is a music town. So these are just a couple of the examples that the plan goes through to really focus on this question around how do we tell Montgomery's story more effectively, and how do you see that in downtown Montgomery every day? The plan covers some specific recommendations too around improving Court Square, you know, the center arguably of downtown Montgomery for so many reasons. We've outlined a number of different improvements, from improving the area around the fountain so that there's more space to actually engage with the fountain and take pictures, but also to activate spaces around Court Square, and even think about a new entry to downtown around the Korean War Memorial that would better improve the experience of coming to downtown. And then we talk a lot about events and programming. One of the most cost-effective ways we can boost economic development in other cities around the country, Grand Rapids and Macon, for instance, have seen this, is by investing in things like programming, annual events, monthly events. Some of that already happens in Montgomery. We think it's time to really pick up that mantle and start to move that forward. And that's where those organizations that I spoke about before, the Business Improvement District, play really, really importantly into making these kinds of things happen. When we talk about the visitor and residential experience, or like a resident experience, what is it like to enter downtown? How does it look? How does it feel? One of the biggest questions we received was around I-65. So Logan just talked about the corridor study that they were involved with. Anna mentioned previously a study of I-65 to look at a longer term set of improvements to fix all this intersection in particular. What we were really focused on is recognizing that engineering was underway to think about what the long-term future of this area is. How do we improve it in the short term? Some of these types of on and off ramps to downtown, whether you're coming to Maxwell or downtown, look like this. We actually think there's opportunities to make some simple improvements that would help to support habitat like the state insect, the monarch butterfly. And this is, of course, one of the other entrances from that same intersection, where we're looking at opportunities for tree plantings and better signage to make sure that when you come off the highway, you know exactly where you're going, you know how to enter downtown. All of that is crystal clear. It's welcoming for visitors and it's welcoming for residents. And in downtown itself, we did focus not only on Court Square, but also on Commerce Street. So Commerce Street today, this is the existing picture of Commerce Street today, and we feel like there's an opportunity to really invest in the center of Commerce Street, to bring more tree planting and really create a linear park that connects Court Square all the way to the riverfront and really act as downtown Montgomery's planted front door. This generated certainly a lot of excitement from nearby business owners. So we did talk about this with a lot of the existing property and business owners, wanted to make sure that this was something that they thought would be really valuable for their business and what they were looking to achieve. And then closer to the riverfront, we looked at places that, to Anna's point, we can't have blocks that are active and blocks that are not. This large parking lot down at the end of Commerce Street, right there at the entrance to where you go under the tunnel to the river. And I started to think about that as a new space, a new active outdoor space that could be programmed and hold some of the events that would bring people downtown at different times of the year, but also include some space for new development. So it's an active space right there at the foot of Union Station, major hotels, the riverfront itself, and really could be like a signature space that would help to really activate downtown Montgomery. So when you think about all of these things in context, this is the core of downtown Montgomery, where we would connect the riverfront to Court Square and really think about the design of Commerce Street and how we fold in EJI's investments as well. But this is really a big opportunity that very few cities can match. But in addition and beyond the core of downtown itself, when we think about the broader downtown, how do we connect to Alabama State University more effectively? How do we do the same to Whitewater and Maxwell Air Force Base? There are a number of connections that need to be made. Other cities have invested in trail systems that have made those connections. And we've worked with local partners to identify a number of streets within downtown and beyond that could handle and hold a really beautiful trail system, so that regardless of where you live in the city or in downtown, or if you're a visitor to downtown, you could walk or bike to any of these destinations, and you could really have a really powerful experience to experience everything that Montgomery has to offer. And of course, central to this is the riverfront, right? Anna mentioned this before. Connecting Whitewater and Maxwell Air Force Base to the Cypress Preserve. If you do that, it goes right through the heart of downtown. And this is an opportunity that in working in a lot of downtowns is really unique to Montgomery, to be able to connect these types of recreational assets, one that is very active like Whitewater, and one that is a beautiful nature preserve and hopefully accessible in the future. That becomes something that is just really monumental to the city. And so we think about this, well, what does it mean to connect these things? Well, we can look at what other cities have done. Some of that is looking at trail systems that are less expensive than permanent ones, trail systems that float, trail systems that can handle floodwaters and can rise and fall depending upon the floodwaters. And then thinking about spaces that today are overlooked, but in the heart of the summer, this is a really hot space. And if we really thought about this as an oasis and as a means of enjoying the river, but also as a part of this larger connection, then you have really a powerful riverfront experience. One that hopefully we can engage more with the water, where you could rent kayaks, you have the trail system, you would have these spaces to enjoy downtown and the river and connect to valuable organizations and investments, certainly like the baseball stadium and EJI. And then the last piece of this is all about the downtown economy, and what this part of what these actions in the plan really speak to is thinking about new housing development downtown. You have certainly growth in housing in downtown, but not enough just yet. And so when folks ask us for things like, it would be great if we could have a supermarket downtown, my response is always, I agree. We need more people living downtown to get us to that point. So that is one of the key goals that we have, is looking at more housing development, but then also thinking very carefully about business growth. You have a growing number of tech firms. You have small businesses. Those small businesses are looking for space that is affordable to them, and you do have that space available in Montgomery. So we want to make sure that we're balancing the needs of new housing with the needs of small businesses. And we did look in the context of this plan at some specific portions within downtown. This is one of the places we felt was a particular gap, where at the bottom of this map, you see the National Memorial for Peace and Justice and 5 points there. And at the top is the core of downtown, which we've talked about. And in between is a significant number of some empty properties, some parking lots, and a few active buildings. But this would be one of those places that we would say is really important for infill development, because it would really help to connect a few of these things that right now feel very isolated. So the plan itself, as I mentioned, is online. It's called the Downtown Action Plan. It includes not just all of these ideas and how to get it done, but also quotes and feelings from those that we've engaged with and the things that they've said about Montgomery. And it ends with this very specific action plan that speaks to what is the most important things to do in the coming years, who should be at the table. These are the critical aspects of this work that really turn an idea into something that is implementable. So I think with that, Robert, I'll pass it back to you, and hopefully this was a good enough overview of the work that we undertook.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott. That largely is it. Again, as I said with the Southern Boulevard Action Plan, the Downtown Action Plan, both plans will largely be guiding documents for how we basically grow and develop each particular corridor. And just like I talked about traffic counts on the Southern Boulevard, the traffic counts that come into the primary entrances of downtown Montgomery, I-85, I mean, we're talking about 120,000 vehicles per day, between 100 and 120,000 on I-85 as you make your way into the Union Street and Court Street exits. And as you travel on up to 65, we're talking about 80 to 85,000 vehicles per day along I-65 corridor as you come near the Clay Heron interchange locations. So with that, again, we do need favorable approval from you all, and we're open to any more questions that you might have.
I have a question regarding, I know that we talked a little bit about tourism in Montgomery and how it has increased considerably with the EJI projects,
Yes,
plural.
with an S.
That also brings about my concern for, because I do tourism,
Yes, ma'am.
my concern about the accessibility for motor coaches, parking availability, roundabouts that have been broken because they have to run over the roundabouts to get to maneuver.
Right.
And then the lack of parking for motor coaches. And the motor coaches are increasing,
Yes, ma'am.
and there are only a couple of designated sites where they could safely deboard their passengers and also pick them up. So that's really, and then the sites within Dexter, you're moseying down that street, so traffic has been quite tolerant, but I don't know how irate they get having
Right.
to sit behind a motor coach while people are looking out the windows. So that's my take.
Right. And Scott, I don't know if motor coaches or large vehicles or anything like that was addressed.
I didn't cover it tonight, but we talk about transportation needs downtown. We talked about parking within the context of this work, and certainly the need for a downtown shuttle. Now, EJI already operates one between their sites. I think at one point, Maxwell, many years ago, operated one to downtown, although you all should correct me if I'm misremembering this.
Yeah, so,
But there
so,
were
so correction on that one, that was actually the city that was, so we used to have downtown trolley circulator routes, and there was one particular route that we actually extended to Maxwell Air Force Base. That was discontinued. As a matter of fact, the whole entire trolley circulator routes downtown were discontinued, but those are back on the drawing board to actually bring those back because they are desperately needed, and we've got even more tourism now than we had back then when they were operating. So I think the justification is definitely there for those.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Exactly.
Do you have your downtown action plan in front of you?
I do.
Turn to page 31.
Page 31?
31.
31. Page 31, okay.
Now, on the second picture,
Second picture, the one in the middle
yes,
with the police car.
yes, it says on the left, a police presence give the impression of being patrolled. What does that mean? Is that you don't want it patrolled, you want it patrolled?
No. It's just all about police presence, and I may be stealing Scott's thunder here, but it's all about having a police presence in the downtown area so people feel safe, so they can see the police patrolling. And this, I think, was just a photo just showing that. Am I right there, Scott? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, you are, but there is a balance. And this is a conversation we've had with a number of different cities. You shouldn't need, in a downtown that feels really safe, ideally you want the police to be visible, but not overly visible. So that picture was actually a representation of the fact that that was the first thing that you would see coming onto Commerce at that time of night. So it's really just reflecting the needs of what everyone had told us, which is, look, downtown is great. We want to make sure that it continues to be safe and work towards even improved safety.
No, I don't take it as a negative.
Okay.
For police presence. It's just sound negative. A police presence, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good thing. But
Yes,
it
sir.
just sounds, when I looked at it and saw it, a police presence give the impression of it's being patrolled. Well, it should give the impression that it's being patrolled.
I couldn't agree more.
Because we want tourists to feel safe.
You're exactly right, tourists and residents alike. And I wanted to share with you all that we had a meeting that the mayor facilitated a couple of weeks ago with Chief Darrell Albert and some of our downtown, not all of our businesses, but really we were kind of focused on the core investors right on Commerce Street and the alleyway, just to kind of get a conversation started. Chief Albert has been absolutely great in making sure right now, until you get a downtown alliance or some kind of a downtown entity that's a public-private partnership that really has a budget for safe and clean, and they're focused only on downtown, which is called for in the plan. The chief has really stepped up so that their officers are visible but not too visible. They really have made a difference, particularly the last weekend that we had the big the second Saturday weekend. We got nothing but rave reviews from our downtown businesses about the police presence and handling everything just right.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Is that some weekend you had on the shooting just for?
That was the baseball weekend. That was the Sun Belt Conference weekend. Is there any questions from the audience? Yes. Yes, come forward. Give your name and address. Same.
Hello, my name is Barbara Clark. I haven't lived here long, but I have moved from bigger cities, and I'm enjoying Montgomery, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity now to think about the bus transportation, because some people might not want to drive into the city, so maybe, I'm not sure if it's set up already for like park and ride type situations, where they can come in and then catch the shuttle. I thought that was an awesome idea. So that way they don't have to worry about parking and going back to their car. They could just, because I know it's gonna get a lot bigger than it is now, especially with the growth that you guys have envisioned. And I think that'll just be something that you should consider maybe in the future.
No, you're right about that. And come on, Rob. Because the baseball tournament last week, I went out to about three games, and the parking.
The parking?
Yeah, the parking. Yeah, that was some of the issues from what I heard some of our businesses say is the parking.
Yeah, parking. And was the baseball tournament at Biscuit Stadium or
Yes,
Patterson?
Sun Belt. It was the
Sun Belt.
tournament
So
at Biscuit Stadium, yes.
That was at Biscuit Stadium, yeah. So on the parking ride, so you all know that the hub of our public transit system is downtown, which is a $20 million intermodal transportation facility, which is where our bus system actually originates from and goes all across the city. And then connected to it is about a 375 space parking deck, which is meant to be a park and ride facility for those that need to ride public transit. Now, at the time when it was built, as Ms. Clemens alluded to about the shuttles downtown, we had trolley circulator routes that were also in operation that largely operated out of Union Station. And so it was the perfect scenario where we had a 375 space parking deck right next to the primary bus hub, and trolley circulator routes operating, throughout downtown. And yeah, and that's why we're in the process of trying to bring the trolley circulator routes back. So when people do come downtown, they have not only, a public transit option to ride around downtown, in addition to, bicycle share program that we have, and also the scooter program that we have. So we want to have multiple options for people to be able to travel throughout downtown.
But Greyhound's also in the intermodal.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Greyhound.
A grant?
Greyhound bus.
Oh, Greyhound, yeah, and thanks for pointing that out. It is also the hub, our intermodal facility is the hub for Greyhound as well as Megabus. They all operate out of the same facility. So a lot of concentration of people right here in downtown, which is the kind of atmosphere we want. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from the panel? Are there other questions from the audience? Comments? Complaints? Anything? All right. Dinner time, okay. Motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
All righty.
All right.
Congratulations. on
Thank
your
y'all
project.
so much. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Logan. See y'all at the City Council.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh.
right. We're out.